You're not going to want to miss this episode of the AI Show where we talk all about the Azure AI Foundry extension for Visual Studio Code with my friend April Speight. Make sure you tune in. Hello and welcome to this episode of the AI Show. We're talking all about the Azure AI Foundry extension for Visual Studio Code. My friend April Speight. April, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. And yourself?
Fantastic. April is one of my fun friends because she knows my wife like through different, and it's like the intersection of all the goodness it's so good to have you on the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Awesome. So we're talking about the Azure AI Foundry extension for Visual Studio Code. Why don't you give us a beat or two on what it is and how it's supposed to help developers?
All right. So if you heard about the Azure AI Foundry, most likely you've probably done things with Foundry in the portal, in the browser, the UI version that we have. Well, for those who've been wondering, oh man, I wish I could do this in VS Code more, or just in general, if I could do it in VS Code, well, guess what? We have an extension for you that you can actually have a lot of the fun you're having in Azure AI Foundry portal, but now in Visual Studio Code with the extension. And so today I'm here to share with you the features that we have available in there. We're going to take a look at the model playgrounds as you're exploring models and trying to figure out which one you want to use for whatever you're building. We're also going to be creating an agent. I know agents are huge right now, and so we do have that capability as well in the extension. So overall, you could think about the extension as having that Azure AI Foundry experience, but in Visual Studio Code.
I see. And I loved how you took two beats there on one, like dealing with models. You can do that now in Visual Studio Code, is what you're telling me. And the second is actually creating and using agents. I feel like I need to take a look at this. Have you brought something to show us?
Of course I did. All right, so here we are in Visual Studio Code. I already had the extension downloaded, but if you're just giving this a try for the first time, you're going to want to head to the extension section and search for Azure AI Foundry. And this is what it's going to look like when it's up. Now, Seth, there is a little bit of setup, and the reason being is that we need to make sure that we're working with our existing project that we have in Azure Foundry. So once you have the actual extension downloaded and installed, you're going to actually use the Azure extension to sign in. I'm already signed in, so I won't share the goodies that our team has around the projects.
Right.
But essentially, as a heads up, you'll need to sign in and you'll be able to try things out, assuming you already have a project. Now, you'll see here at the top, I have my default project selected. And so you can change that default project. You can just right click that and then you can switch. That'll bring you back over to the Azure extension. And from there, you can select the project that you're going to work with. So from a starting point, this is the very, very start of using the extension is selecting the project that you're going to want to work in.
I love it. Before we go on, can I ask you, so tell me about the project system. So Azure AI Foundry, I'm assuming you can create a bunch of projects. Can you tell us about that for just a second?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you're actually going to start a little higher with than that with the hub itself. So the hub can have multiple projects in it. So like as a perfect real world example, in our team right now, we have a hub resource and we can have multiple projects in it. So let's say you and I are in the same team. I can have my own project that's using the same resources that your project's using as well. And it's really helpful because we're able to also share models, which is what we have in our current setup too. So
I see.
hub can have multiple projects in it, and we're working at the project level for using the Foundry extension.
Which makes a ton of sense because as a dev, right, when we're deving on this stuff, we're usually in a single project, and then when we content switch to another project, we can do that in the extension.
Yep, absolutely.
I love it. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. No problem. Interrupt anytime. So I'm going to just take you on a tour of what's happening here in the interface for the extension. So we have this division of 3 different sections. The top half, we have the resources, where I have my my cursor at right now. That's where not only can you see what project you have, but also where you can access all the models that you may already have deployed. That's also where you can see any agents that are currently in the project, as well as any of the threads from the conversations that are being held with your agents. And we'll explore that today. Before I get to that, though, I also want to call out the other 2 sections. The next one down is going to be the tools section. And so right now we have 3 tools in there. One's the model catalog. So we'll explore that when we look at some models. The model playground, which is where you can go and chat with your models. And there's even like now to me like a little bonus treat in there for an experience that you don't quite get in the portal, but you get in the extension. That's where you can compare responses across 2 models. So that's pretty cool. And then we have the agent playground as well. So once you've created your agent and you want to test that out, you can do that in the agent playground. And then below, just before we start having fun, is just that feedback or the help and feedback section. So documentation is easily accessible there by selecting that documentation link. And then just below that, if you select GitHub, that'll take you to the repo. If you have any issues with the extension itself, go there and submit an issue. And one of the wonderful folks from the engineering team will definitely check that out and hopefully get you unblocked or resolve any issue that you might be running to. So I know there's not a lot to see right now until I start opening things up, Steph. So how about we start opening up some of these tabs that we have?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I like to show up to my dev environment in a pristine way, and so I love how this is like, here's what you got. What do you want to start with? And I love the tour that you're taking us on. So what are we
Oh,
starting with?
absolutely. Yes, I feel like Vanna White. So the first thing we're going to look at.
I love it. I love it.
Yes, we're going to look at some models because I want to show you all just how similar the experience is in the extension compared to exploring models like you would in the browser. So I mentioned earlier that we do have models that we are sharing in our own team across our resource. And as you can see, I have a lot to choose from. And so with these models, if I were to select one of them, let's say GPT-4o, for example, I'm going to get the model card for the model. So this is something that you'll also see if you're using Foundry in the browser. But here in the extension, I also get this information as well. And I can also edit any of the deployed models too. And if I were to open up that edit file, I'll just open it for you. This is where I can adjust my my rate limits as well, which sometimes we kind of need to do that depending on
Right.
what we're building, you know. But from there, you can go ahead and save it. Since I didn't make changes, let me not mess up anything there.
Mhm.
But so you'll get this information for all the models that are here. Now, let's say I want to go explore models. Let's say I don't have anything deployed yet. Well, that's where this model catalog will come into play. So let me close that up and go over to the model catalog because this is where I can see all the models that we have available that we can deploy. And so you can explore, you know, all the ones that we have, figure out which one works best for you and your use case. We have some options in here for filtering, whether it's by publisher or task. There's a lot of tasks to choose from, by the way. And then
I know.
you can also search. Which ones do you find yourself using most often, Steph, for all the different tasks? Because you build some very
For
cool
me,
things.
I'm usually using a lot of like GPT-4o, but I'm starting to get
Mhm.
into the multimodal stuff. So like for example, I saw
Mm.
you had the latest GPT image one, so I was gonna start playing with that one myself. And so yeah, I love the text. I love the ones that can do function calling, and I love the ones that can do like multimedia.
Got it. You know, I'm simple. I'm a very simple lady. I have been using 4o for like everything, but I'm going to start venturing out a little bit more, hopefully soon as I'm starting to just build some just fun samples just for fun lately. So hopefully I get a chance to explore a little more like you are. But yeah, so with that said, we have 108 models here to choose from. And literally once you're ready to deploy, you get the option to deploy in Azure. I'm just going to click O3. I won't deploy it, but just so you can see what that experience is like in here. Once you select deploy in Azure, we will then take you through a little wizard. You'll choose your service. You'll choose the version of the model. So if there's more than one version for a model, they'll all display here. You can select whichever one is most applicable to what you're building. You'll choose a deployment type and then you'll give it a name. Now, right after this step, it gives me a prompt that says, are you sure you want to deploy or something to that effect?
Right.
I'm not going to do another deployment. So we're going to pretend, use our imagination like I had deployed it.
Right.
But that's the process for deploying in here. Now, if you recall, when I went to go look at that other model earlier that I had open for 4.0, we're going to get the model card once we have that deployment. And if we need to adjust anything, like I mentioned, like the rate limits, for example, we'll click that edit button, edit that, save it, and then we can go ahead about our business with trying things out with the model.
That's cool. So you have the sort of the end-to-end model experience right in Visual Studio Code, where you can download it, you can look at a model, and then you can push a model to your project.
Yep, absolutely.
Love it.
So with that said, we probably want to play with a model,
Let's
right?
do it.
And so let me go through a different way. There's actually multiple ways you can go about trying models out in the playground. Let me close this guy up here. So GPT-4o, for example, let's say I've deployed that. I want to try some things out with a couple of prompts, and I can right click on that, and we get some different options here. We're going to focus right now on the playground. So you would select that there. Alternatively, though, as you probably saw, you could also just go to the model playground down here. But if you select open in playground, it'll give you a playground. Now, for those of you who are tuning in and you might be familiar with some of our other tools like the AI toolkit, you'll notice the playground does look similar. And that's because it is leveraging the same playground from the AI toolkit as well. So yeah, so you're going to get a very similar experience. You'll notice when I go to select this drop down here in a bit, you'll see some of my other models from AI Toolkit, and those are pulling models from GitHub models. But in any case, I can test things out that I have from Foundry here. So just here at that bottom section is where I have the models that I have from Foundry. I have this one set up here for 4.0 that's good and ready to go, and I can go ahead and test things out. So let's say I gave it some context. Lately, Seth, I don't know, did you ever watch Zoom like at all? I think that show, like they're like based in Canada. It's like the kids like variety show. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I am not as cultured as some of my colleagues, apparently.
It's okay.
So tell me about it.
Yeah, so it's the show. Oh wait, it wasn't in Canada. They were based in Boston. That's where they
Okay.
were. And it was like a kind of like variety show where they do different skits. But there's one thing that they do on there is they speak this language called ubby-dubby. And so lately, when I've been testing models out, I've been giving them the instructions to provide responses in ubby-dubby.
I have heard
And
of that incident. I don't know
yeah.
how I've heard of that, but I have heard of that bit. So maybe I have seen it.
Okay, maybe. So that's what we're going to pass in today as a context instruction. So anytime I ask this model to give me a response, it's going to give it back to me in ubby-dubby. So that's what we're going to give a try today. And so yeah, I don't know why I've landed on that one day. I just came to mind. So I had the instructions there. If I wanted to change the parameters, I could, and then I can give it the prompt. I can say, when is Easter, since we're like right in spring. Let's see. And there we have our answer. And that's literally ubby-dubby on the screen, everyone, in case you want to pick up another language to learn. But it gives me the response. Great. So hopefully anyone watching this, hopefully you probably give that a try too for your context instructions. Yeah. It's just my little piece of fun. I'm trying things out.
Now a question, is this hitting the models that you've deployed? You just get to pick the model and you're just basically sort of testing out the models, but in your local Visual Studio Code environment. Is that actually what's happening?
Yep, and that's what I am doing here. And I did mention earlier that we have a little extra fun in this experience with the extension, because since we're leveraging the playground feature that's in the AI toolkit, although we're working with Azure AI Foundry, we get this compare feature. And so this compare feature will enable you to actually compare two models at one time. You can submit the prompt once, and then it'll give you the output at the same time. So I have one that's set up. Let me just make sure I'm grabbing the right one. I think it's 4.1 mini. Yeah. So we can do the comparison here. So on the left-hand side, I have 4.0. On the right-hand side, I have 4.1 mini. And if I were to pass in a prompt that says, I like using this one too, write me a limerick about VS Code. And there we go. I literally have a response. As you can see, I only had to type that prompt in one box. I didn't have to like type in both.
That's cool.
This is also a really great way to just compare output from models as well.
Yeah, and not only compare outputs, but maybe even speed, because you're going to be able to tell right away if one is faster than the other and if it's good.
Yes, absolutely. So this is the model experience with exploring models, deploying models, testing models out in the playground. And then in addition to that, the other thing that you can also do in here is grab the code for a model. So let's say heading back to just like 4.0, I don't know why I keep opening that, but if I right click on that and click open code file, what it's going to do is take me through another wizard. We love our wizards in VS
Yes.
Code. But this is where you're going to answer a couple of questions, and from there, it's going to generate the actual code for you to go use your model. So whether you want to use the Azure AI Model Inference Client Library or the Azure Open AI and Foundry Models Client Library, it's going to determine what the code generated looks like. So let's just select that. You can then choose your language as well. Python is my favorite. And then also the authentication method too. So whether you want to do Intra ID, which I recommend, or you
Right.
can also do key authentication, whichever one you select, what it's going to do next is actually give you the Python file in my case, since I selected Python. And now from here, I can go ahead and test things out and really start doing things a lot more with code at this step. So this is a pretty great as well. I do believe in Foundry in the browser experience. You can also get the code too, but you can also get it here in VS Code. So,
Yeah, and that's since that's where I do most of my dev work, right? It's cool that it just literally just shuttles it into that.
yep, yep, absolutely.
I
So that's
love it.
just another thing. I
The
have
next
more
thing,
to share. Did you have a question?
yeah. So I'm looking at the way that you can do code, and you can do models, and you can play in the playground, and you can
Mhm.
compare. That's awesome. But I'm hearing that the next generation of this stuff is agentic.
Yes.
And I see some agents and threads there. Can you walk us through some of the functionality there?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just not save this document. Let me close this playground. I'll keep the model catalog open.
Of course.
So if I already have any agents in my existing project, they're going to show up here in this agents area. And if I twirl that down, I see I actually do have two agents. We're going to explore this AI news agent one a little later. But essentially, if I already have agents in my project, they're all going to display here. I can also create agents from the extension as well. Just like you can do that in the browser within Foundry, you can also do it here by selecting create new agent. And then you can test them out in the playground. So we're just going to create a very simple agent together. But after we've created that one, I'm going to show you what the experience looks like testing one out that has a tool that's also been added to it. But from just a getting started perspective, you'll select that create new agent button. And then you need to decide where you want to save it. You need to give the file a name as well. So sorry about that. I'm going to call this demo agent. We'll just keep it simple. And we'll save that file. Now, there's two things that's going to happen. One, the file saves. The second is that you're going to get these two different files, if you will, or windows that are opened up. On the left-hand side, we get the YAML file for the agent itself. And let me actually close this a bit so we can get a little more real estate on the screen. So on the left-hand side, you'll get the YAML file for the agent. And on the right-hand side, we're going to get, if you're familiar with VS Code, you know how you can do that preview on the side if you're working with like markdown files and such. Like it's kind of almost like that, but
Yes.
you can actually like enter things into this form that's on the right. So whether you're more comfortable working directly with the YAML file or doing things over here on the right-hand side, I tend to flip back and forth depending on what field I'm editing, but you'll be able to edit accordingly,
Yeah.
I would say.
Here's a
Yeah.
fun fact that you may not know. I actually worked on the spec for this
Oh,
file format.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, so
oh,
sometimes
hi,
they let
world.
me do stuff, and so
We have a
yeah,
superstar on this
I got to
show.
participate. No, I got to participate in the spec, and it's cool because my sense is that as developers, we want to be able to check in our stuff,
Yeah.
even if it's an agent definition, but we also want to be able to edit it in a nice way, and this kind of
Yeah.
gives us the best of both worlds, I think.
Yeah, I personally like it. And so yeah, so you're going to get both of these will show when you create your new agent. And then from there, we need to just start filling some things out. So on the left-hand side, we have the name of it. We can give a description for the agent. I'll just say an agent that gets the weather and recommends an outfit. Very simple.
Right.
And then from there, the ID itself will populate when we actually go to deploy it. So we're not going to fill that out. We can also provide the author for the agent. So if I were to put my name there, for example, I never use these tags in here, Seth. Do you know what these tags are for?
Yeah, so the tags for me are a way of, for example, because once you start building, this is my opinion. When
Hmm.
I made this part of the spec, the idea was that you're eventually going to have so many of these that you're going to want to be able to pull them up by, like, is what kind of agent is this? Is an agent for working with with our, I don't know, with our customers? Is an agent for working with our
Hmm.
support people? Is this like a documentation kind of thing? And so that was the general idea.
Got it. Got it. Okay, cool. I have a much better idea now of that. And as we continue to move down, I think I might have, oops, I think this ID, one of these IDs is for the models. Let me see. Let me fill this in here. Okay. All right. Isn't that cool stuff? I like that you did it like that.
I didn't do the tooling. I just did the format spec. So I wrote the
in
spec
my
before.
head, in my
Yeah.
head, you did it. So
Oh, okay. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it.
but big props to the engineering team that made this happen, though, in all honesty. So with that said, yeah, that top ID is going to be what we'll get once the agent's deployed. But down here, once we get past tags and into model, the ID field that we have here first is going to be for the model itself. That's going to be the same model name for when you did the model deployment, and that's the model that the agent's going to use. And then we need to provide instructions for the agent too. So the agent that I already have created that I'll demo for you all in a bit, I actually used a feature that I won't get a chance to go through it all today with you all, but
Right.
it's within the AI Toolkit extension. They have a prompt builder in there. And it's part, yeah, they have a prompt builder where you can describe very briefly what sort of prompt you want to create, and then like it outputs like a very like well crafted prompt. And we'll take a look at the actual prompt in a bit, but that's like as a heads up that if you need help with prompts, prompt builder within AI Toolkit super helpful for that. So in
I
this
love it.
case, though, I can put some instructions for the agent. I would just say you're a friendly assistant. It seems to be like the default that a lot of people use. You're a friendly assistant. And then from there, we then can select the tools that we want to add. So for the tools, just like when you're working in the browser in Foundry, you can add tools such as grounding with being search, which is one that I used in the agent. I'll show you in a little bit as well. I'm blanking on all the other ones right now, Seth. I know we have a search tool as well, but what else do we have?
So there's a code interpreter. There
Yes.
is a grounding with Bing, and there's a grounding. You can actually ground to Fabric or to Azure AI Search for knowledge, and then you on the actions you can do tools like Open API calls
Okay.
to other things. If I remember right, I think I'm remembering right.
Okay. No, that sounds accurate. And with that said, when you are adding tools here in the with the extension, you'll select this plus icon, but it's going to open things back up. So you might be wondering, like, what's going on here? What else do I need to select? Well, typically, what you would have set up is going to be a YAML file that has the information for the tool itself. I do have one. Let's see. Here we are. So this is what essentially, without sharing everything I have,
Right,
of what it
right,
would look like. But like once you, for the grounding with Bing, for example, you're going to need that grounding with Bing resource, and then you'll create a YAML file for that and save it. And then when you get to the step for adding a tool, if you're using the extension, that's what you're going to select when you click this plus button, and then it'll associate it. I'll do it now and just for fun because I like having fun, just so you
right.
can see. But you'll select the tool file, and then it shows up here in the tool. But also on the left, we have this here. Now I do have an updated version without the squiggles, so I'll show you the difference on that. But for example's sake, this is how that setup would happen. And then below we have some agent settings. And then the last thing you would do is deploy to Azure AI Foundry. It happens relatively quickly. So I'm going to show you the actual agent that I have that we can test out. But from a creation perspective, that's what it takes to create an agent in the extension itself.
I love it. Let's test one out, and then let's tell people where they can get all this goodness from.
Yeah, absolutely. So if everyone recalls, let me not save this. Back over where I have my resources and I have the agents that I have available. If you were to click on an agent, this is where you can see the information. I mentioned earlier to you that I have those instructions that I created with Prompt Builder. If I open up that YAML file, this is where you can actually see, like, AI generated this prompt, Seth. If I had to do this by myself, we'd still be waiting for me to finish generating the prompt.
I
So
love it.
so this one in particularly, what it does is it uses Bing to find like the latest AI news, whatever, and then it summarizes the information in the news article in plain speak for like a non-technical audience. And so to try this out, we can open it with the agent playground. If I select it here in tools on the left and I can select the agent, it's called the AI news agent in this case. And so this should hopefully look familiar if you tried things already out in Foundry, but in the extension, you're going to get that similar experience. All your agent preferences are also here as well. And then if I want to say, what's the latest for the intersection of AI and fashion? So what we will get is yep, we're going to get a response from the search that's done with Bing. And I now have an article here for virtual try-ons trending in fashion with AI. We also get some links to the resources that it's pulled this from as well. And that's our agent, Seth. Like, you can test all this out here in the extension. And there's one other part related to this. You look super excited, so I'm going to let you talk before I show you threads.
Yeah, I am excited because I'm actually building a demo that's coming up at our next conference, and I keep like I can totally just use this and save myself a wee bit of time. I don't know why I did that accent, but I did.
I
That's
like
here it
the
is.
accent.
I feel like I could do a lot of this stuff in Visual Studio Code, and then have these YAML files live as part of my project.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. You definitely
Which is
could.
awesome.
So if I were having more conversations with the agent, I would start to be able to see more of the messages show up here in this thread section. Let me make this a little bigger. I can see where things might have failed. So I had one that kind of failed earlier. But if I open up one of these threads, and this is an area that I'm honestly still getting more up to speed on, of knowing like what's what here. But within here, we do get the thread ID. We get an idea what the token count is as well. We know what tools were used too, which is helpful. So if you have multiple tools, we'll see which one was actually utilized here. And then we also get the response itself. And we have some step details that we can also go through as well, that we can check out. So yeah, this is, in a nutshell, Seth, like the things you can do right now within the Azure AI Foundry extension.
If people don't know what threads are basically the conversation history that you have with an agent, and it's internal stuff. And so I'm using this a lot to debug this app that I'm building. It's cool that actually in the extension you get more information than you do on the website currently. This will likely change, and so the fact that I'm able to do this is going to change my workflow even today, because I'm still working on I'm finalizing some of the agents that I'm working on. So this is absolutely excellent. I love it. So just to finish up here, where can people go to find out more, or where can people get the extension?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can get that within the marketplace itself for Visual Studio Code. And I see we have a lovely link available there for folks to check out. Do go download it, give it a try. And I did mention in that help and feedback section, there is a link to the repo itself there for any issues that you might run into. But give it a try. Even if you're brand new to Foundry, give it a try.
And
Everyone,
here's some docs that I want to make sure we put up. One of them is for using the extension, working with it. So make sure you go to that. And then the second one you gave me was this one, which is working with the AI agent service, because there's two things in there. And then there was a GitHub repository that you gave me. What's in this repository?
Yes, so this is going to be the repo for the extension itself. So anytime you have if you run into any issues, for example, definitely submit an issue there within the issue section of the repo, and one of the folks from the team will like check that out, help you get unblocked as well. So do check that out. The other thing I do want to call out are the other two documentation links that you shared. Literally what I went through today is what's in those docs.
Oh,
So if someone's watching this and now they want to go back and watch it again, you can literally kind of map one to one to see like where you can actually go and try different things with the models or the agents.
and then finally, if people want to like be part of a developer community for that, here we're starting
Yes.
one up. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So over in GitHub, we have a Azure AI Foundry discussion section within the Azure AI Foundry Developer Forum. Do come check that out. We have folks from Cloud Advocacy, which is the org I'm in. We have folks from Product that's also there as well. We're building up a really lively and engaging community where folks can come and ask their questions, give feedback about our Foundry products, and also there's a show and tell section, and I love a good show and tell.
Yes.
So if you want to share projects that you're working on, you can also contribute that too. We'd love to have anyone come and engage within the discussions. And so definitely check that out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us, April.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And thank you so much for watching. We're learning all about Azure AI Foundry extension for Visual Studio Code. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care.